Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Outcome Studio podcast, where we're talking about trends and best practices in sales, marketing, and technology with people out there getting it done. And I'm so excited to have my friend Jasmine Morris here today. Jasmine, say hey.
Everybody.
Jasmine and I had the awesome privilege of working together in a past life at a IT reseller and just in the trenches together, really, like doing the whole inside sales thing, a lot of outbound, cold calling, some event follow-up. And Jasmine became an expert, in my opinion, at handling objections on the cold call. Like I would always play her calls for the entire team as examples. And she will always have a place in my heart for that because it is very challenging. And she did it so tactfully and with research. Jasmine, you're a pro. Maybe what's your one cold calling tip?
My one cold calling tip is don't be so focused on who you're calling. So like one of the things at one point in time I had went from calling commercial to federal, and I would used to get so intimidated by calling somebody with a chief or lieutenant because I just wasn't aware of ranking, and I'm like, oh my god, and I'm like, these are just people, at the end of the day, they're people, and they're either going to want to talk to you or they're not, and just kind of relax and make the call.
There you go. It's very easy to have analysis paralysis and be so worried about job title, get stuck doing 30 minutes of research before you place the call. And you're right. They're just a human on the other end. And you were very good at, the reason for my call is, and having that ready and having, just 2 or 3 bullets prepared of why you were calling that person. And you handled it masterfully. So well done.
Thank you. Well, I will put a shout out there. I had a really cool manager. His name's Aaron Abadilli. So that helped with that. So yeah, we were a good team.
We were. And I think we had a ton of fun too. Like I was kind of the marketing guy who had a sense of maybe how to handle our outbound thing. And really, I asked you guys a lot of questions, and it was more just like, how do I make you more successful? And, but I appreciate the kudos. Like y'all made me look good. So that's great. But so today, Jasmine is an account manager at CBTS. So she sells in the IT channel. And so that's reason one I wanted to have Jasmine on today, and we'll talk about that. But 2, Jasmine graduated from Purdue University with her chemical engineering degree, really liked the technical track. And in fact, now Jasmine is going back as an adult getting her MBA in IT. Basically, it's a business-focused MBA for IT. But also Jasmine is the creative director for Indy Black Millenials. And as we know, in 2020, the Black Lives Matter movement has been really important. It's really opened my eyes in terms of understanding just how challenging it's been for a long time for Black folks in corporate America. And so wanted to spend at least a couple minutes talking about that with Jasmine today as well. So let's start there actually, Jasmine. Like, tell us about Indy Black Millenials, and you have an event this Friday that you're emceeing. You do some volunteering for Black businesses. Like, talk to us a little bit about your extracurriculars there.
Yeah, and before I go, I just want to make one touch point because it's a lot of point of contention for folks when they hear Black Lives Matter. And so Black Lives Matter is an organization, but it's also a movement. And I think people, they get so kind of guarded when they hear BLM, but honestly, Black Lives Matter is a statement and a movement to say our lives matter in so many areas that people don't necessarily consider. So when you have that moment where you're like, those BLM people understand that it is also simply a statement. And so with that being said, so outside of my work every day, I am volunteer or a member of a sorority, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated, where I serve in a couple different positions as chair of the board, as well as an advisor to our undergraduates at Indiana State University and Purdue University, and helping them in their undergraduate journeys. As creative director for the Indy Black Millenials, I just joined in May, and our focus is really networking with other Black professionals in Indy. It's open to anybody and everybody who wants to be involved, but there's a unique experience that Black millennials have. Black professionals just in general in corporate America, there's different experiences that we do have. And it's just an opportunity to really connect on that. And then, of course, being a millennial, right? And again, we're open to any age range, but if you've ever heard millennials killed or read did millennials kill this? Did millennials kill that? So, there's just a unique experience that we have, and we felt that there was value in bringing us together to talk about opportunities, to talk about things that we're facing. A lot of Black millennials are now getting into entrepreneurship on top of working in corporate America. For myself, I also have my own business I started this year that's focusing on helping small businesses and nonprofits with their marketing, everything from logos to websites, and hey, how do I manage this social media thing to make it effective? And so all these things, that this is my daily life. I don't go out to seek just to work with Black people or anything like that. But this is a community where I grow up. These are my friends. These are the people I end up connecting with, and it's just our experience. So it's always great to be able to give back to the community, to be able to connect with like-minded people. It's always great when we have opportunities to network outside of our community, and that's why we're open. We're working on things like we have a conference this weekend that we're moderating and hosting a happy hour with InnoPower, which is like a conference focused on minorities in just different areas, from technology to development to nonprofit to education. And what is that state of minorities in Indiana? How can we come together to make change? So we have that. We're working to do voting drives and getting people informed on what's going on. So it's all about community impact, right? And then I have some things where I'm trying to work with Ivy Tech to help their entrepreneurship program. It's not minority based, but it's just about helping indie entrepreneurs get a good head start. So working with them, they have just a general one, and then they're launching a tech one. So very excited to be working with them and seeing how I can be involved in that too. So do a ton of stuff. I have a lot of fun and stay busy for sure.
Yes. Well, as long as I've known you, how long have I known you for? Since 2015, maybe?
2015, yep.
You've been involved in extracurriculars like this for as long as I've known you.
Right.
And it's been important to you. And so regardless of the Black Lives Matter movement, like you mentioned, which I'm so glad that we're taking the opportunity to chat about this a bit, but for a second, talk about just being involved and how that makes you a better professional. Like, cause for example, my experience, like I don't volunteer a ton, but I work on myself outside of work, and I'm trying to skill up myself, focus on fitness, things like that. Like, I think anybody that's involved in stuff outside of work is a better professional at their day job. Like, do you have any comments on that?
I would just say that regardless of where you're from, it keeps you grounded and connected to people. I think especially in tech, I think it can be so easy for us to focus on, specifications and features and such. But I think one of the things that has helped me in sales and in IT is, okay, forget about all that. What about the people? Who is this impacting? What about people's daily lives? And so for me, I grew up in Indianapolis on the far east side of town, in one of what is now considered one of the most six dangerous neighborhoods in Indy. And there's, as a organization I'm no longer a part of, but I was president for a few years, and we did grassroots groundwork in helping to try to reduce crime and give people resources. And I had the opportunity to, my mom moved us out and I got to a better school system. And then I got the chance to do engineering programs in high school, which led me to go to Purdue to get my degree. Not everybody had that opportunity.
You did. That's awesome.
And so it could be very easy for me to say, well, I made it out. They can do it too. Pick yourself up by your bootstraps. But I know that I was potentially one move away from being in a different school district, shaping my experience in a different way. And so it keeps me grounded. It reminds me just how much impact that you can have, and how we are all not so different or far removed from being in any situation, right? And me personally, I think we should all be striving in whatever field we are to try to make people's lives better, easier, improve quality of life, access to whatever they need access to. And I'm just fortunate enough to where I'm in IT, and I just see how much technology can be that change in a lot of the areas that that we're looking at. So for me, there's a good passion there between my volunteerism and my professional life to where I want to keep down this road and seeing what the impact can be.
Mm-hmm. You bring up such an interesting point too, Jasmine, maybe on your digital marketing agency, for example. You're not an expert marketer. Like, you're not a classically trained marketer. And you gave the example. Sometimes these business owners, who and many times happen to be Black business owners, like, this is problems of starting a business for everybody. Like, they don't know the difference between the different logo types, or like how to just like basically get a domain name and like set up a basic website. Like, that's marketing, but it's also just like technology literacy, as well as just like basic business acumen, and like what are some of the foundational pieces that folks need to be successful. And you've had a successful business career so far, and like you're going to continue to do that. You've learned these things because of like the privileges you've had and the opportunity you have that you're very grateful for. And like, it's just really cool that you spend so much time and energy giving back. And that's like awesome. I love that.
Thanks.
Yeah. And then maybe, so real quick too, so a hat tip to CBTS. You were telling me about the BOLD program. You want to talk about that for a second?
Yeah. So CBTS has a number of employee resource groups to represent different groups of people in the company. And so what I will say is, like, CBTS does an excellent job at allowing those, we call them ERGs, to promote and they put dollars behind what we're trying to do. So whether it's Pride or BOLD is specifically the African American ERG, again, open to anybody. But they just recently did an initiative that was talking about being Black in corporate America. And it also talked about allyship and what does that mean? And we had somebody from the University of Cincinnati, Dr. Letitia Bates, and she talked about, yes, allyship is cool, but I'm looking for an accomplice, somebody who's going to, actually go in the trenches with me. So they went and they interviewed prominent African-American business leaders at various Fortune 500 companies and businesses in the Cincinnati area. And they talked about their experiences as African Americans in corporate America, and the different issues from when they first joined to present day over the span of their career, and really just examining the issue of race, right? It just like I mentioned, Black Lives Matter, people talk about race and they kind of get tight about it. But it's a part of, any minority's identity. We would love to just be people working, but that's just not the case. For me, I'm a Black woman, right? Well, sorry, I'm Black, yes. And then I'm a Black woman, which means another thing. And then being a queer Black woman, that's another thing. And all these identities start to intersect, and again, present unique situations and experiences. And so I know we like to say, oh, we're all the same and everybody's, but that has not been our lived experiences as people on earth. And we have to address that. And that was really what that was about. So they put together, I think, like 5 videos, as well as hosted a really great webinar and interactive session with internally to CBTS and externally with the video. So anybody can go to our YouTube or LinkedIn and see those videos.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's open to the public, but it just was very impactful to have an organization who finds that important, right? We've had to have very tough conversations in the last few months, and they're going to continue to be tough conversations. But when you think like, oh, I'm at a technology company, like, again, it's the people that drive, that make the company, that interact every day. And we should be informed, and we should care about the lived experiences of those around us. So that was pretty awesome. I loved that our team put that together, and at CBTS and Cincinnati Bell is our parent company. So Cincinnati Bell and CBTS put forth company resources to help broadcast that message. So that was awesome.
Yeah, that's really cool, because CBTS didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
And it also doesn't sound like just a PR stunt, which I think we saw a lot of that the past few months. And I think a lot of it's even well-intentioned, but especially in this case of CBTS, where they quite literally created a curriculum of understanding allyship and what it means to be Black in corporate America, and telling stories around that. Like, that's real, that's visceral, that's not some PR stunt. That's like actual professionals explaining, like, hey, I've historically worked with a bunch of white dudes, and like, that's how my industry is. And this is what it meant to me when I showed up on Monday and was like, hey, Jasmine, how's your weekend? And you got to explain something with respect to your culture that a bunch of old white dudes aren't going to understand. Like,
or not wanting to. I think the most times is being afraid to not say anything, or hoping that nobody says anything. I can personally say that after any major incident that happens, police brutality, I really go to work and I hope nobody says anything, because I'm afraid of what they might say. Not that they're going to harm me, but that they're going to say something crazy, and I have to either address it or not address it, and then just these internal conversations I have to have with myself. What I will say is that I think I'm super happy about how my company has handled this, and down to just interactions with my teams, and for anybody that came up to me and said, hey, can we have a conversation, and have a real meaningful conversation about how this impacts, because it is heavy for a lot of people. And if anybody's who watch basketball, it seen Doc Rivers last night talk about the most recent shooting. It's internalized experience for a lot of us, even though we don't know people, because we know somebody who's been impacted. And so it's a heavy burden sometimes. So then having to come to work and then be the spokesperson for my race on a topic, and it can get heavy. But like I said, my company has been really awesome about it. I felt 100% supported, and that's a blessing, honestly, because I know other places don't. I know other places don't.
That makes me very happy for you personally, and I think you know that, but it also makes me very happy for our industry.
Yeah.
Because if you think about the IT channel, there are just ways it's operated for a long time, and a certain demographic happens to work in it, and it's just so cool that CBTS made the space for this, and it trickled down directly to how your colleagues approached you and interacted with you in a time where it's stressful and you're like under pressure to be the spokesperson for your entire Black culture and race. Like it made it so that it was constructive and meaningful versus just a true burden where nothing was going to happen. That just it makes me very happy to hear for companies and anybody in your shoes that's having to navigate this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. Well, let's change gears. I'd like to talk about the fact that you have a chemical engineering degree from Purdue and you went into an IT sales role. You'd always been more technical. Like you had even pursued sales engineer certifications a handful of times. You were typically our go-to with Salesforce because Salesforce is technical. Like you were very good at Salesforce, even which like is separate. But why do you think things have played out this way for you? Like, and now you're getting your MBA in a technical focus.
Yeah. So that's like the first question I get when people are like, what did you study? And I'm like, chemical engineering. And they're like, oh, right. That's always the response. I went to college actually wanting to pursue biomedical engineering because I wanted to deal with things like medical devices and prosthesis and all that jazz. But that was like you had to take a test and do all this extra stuff to get into the program. Chemical engineering was my backup because that didn't work out, and then I hated it. Right, like just upfront, honest, hated everything about the program. Didn't know what I would switch to, and I just pushed through it. So I crawled out of Purdue, and afterwards I was like, well, I want to do sales. So I actually did and I'll say stint at Enterprise Rent a Car. No knock, excellent company overall. It just, the work-life balance was very rough for me. And I ended up moving back to Indianapolis from Lafayette and got hit up by our last company and, got pulled into a ADR role, account development rep, making outbound. And which wasn't too foreign to me because when I was at Purdue, I used to call alumni and ask for donations. So surely if I could call alumni who don't know me and probably haven't been to campus in 30 years and ask them for $100, I can get some people to set some meetings. And so IT was new. IT was new to me, but it was cool to learn. I'm always a person that's like, I'm loving to learn stuff. So when I got to the last company and we were working with technology like Splunk and AppDynamics, it was really awesome to learn like, okay, this is what this does. And, but I had issues at first because I could call and I can sound good and I can get appointments or whatever. But I had trouble at first understanding because I was new to tech, like why? Because I didn't know where people were coming from in terms of why do they need a platform like Splunk, right? What was their previous state? Where is this going to take them? Why is this important? And so once I got that, and again, that's more focused on the people and the business outcomes and such, then I think that's really where I started to take off because it was no longer a conversation about, hey, you can pull in all this data. It was a conversation about like, hey, how are you troubleshooting? Are you jumping into 5 different tools? How long is it taking you to troubleshoot stuff? And it's like, oh, well, It takes us like 3-4 days to troubleshoot something, and you got a team of 8 people working around the clock, and we're just totally getting chewed out about it. And you're like, okay, I can help with that, and I also realized, like, luckily I never really had to call much on storage, but like, me not being the technical expert, calling the technical expert to talk to them about some technical expertise, you're not going to win that battle. So don't have that battle. Right. So I start understanding the people impact, the business impact, and what are the people every day who are charged from taking, IT has typically been a cost center for most organizations. They don't want to spend another dime on IT. But with analytics, with automation, and then, with the stronger emphasis on security, businesses are starting to see profits from IT, because they're making processes more efficient. They are using analytics to make business decisions. And so, speaking to that, so once I got into the groove of that, I'm like, I like this, like, I really enjoy this. And technology is something that's always going to be relevant. There's always a new thing. There's always a new process. There's a new direction. COVID-19 has really pushed so many people who are on traditional ways of IT. They have no choice but to get with the program, where they're going to get left behind. So if you happen to limp through the financial impact of having to shut your business down, great. But now your next challenge is innovation and modernizing so you can stay with the program. So as you can see, I'm kind of excited about it as when I talk about it, and I really found a love for it there. Then I decided, that's when I started getting into sales engineering certifications, because I'm like, I want to learn. So I got my Splunk sales engineering certification. I did my pre-sales for AppDynamics. I started getting into VMware and things like that, because I like to be an expert as much as I can. I like to be a go-to for something. I know I can't be it for everything, but I like to be that person that's like, I'm gonna go to Jasmine about this for something. And so the same thing in the Salesforce administration kind of happened, because, we had lost somebody, and I was the only person who had kind of tinkered in the background. I went back and I'm like, this thing's broken. Nobody can help. Well, let me see what's going on. So I got in there, I took some training. I did everything except for take the actual Salesforce admin certification. So, but helped our last organization move from classic Salesforce to Lightning and whatnot. So I was at this path of, hey, I like sales. I really like this technical path too. What does my future look like career-wise? And I was like, I don't know, but let me go back to school. That's kind of what happened. So
question mark?
Question mark. So I went, and I'm in the program at Western Governors University for my MBA in IT. And it is more business based. It's really taking a look at a lot of customer case studies, talking through, helping them through upgrades, innovations, analyzing internal IT budgets, staffing, all that stuff that as sales you don't worry about. Like, you find a need, you ask them to get the budget, they sign it, and you go. And now I'm learning that other side of being that company who's trying to navigate through this, new modernization or new initiative. One assignment that I just finished up was talking about this bicycle company who is looking to expand they have international offices, United States, Canada, Europe, and they're trying to increase their market share. And they're like, IT team, what are we going to do? And they're like, again, I think it's people are starting to realize that the IT is not just this call center, but it's driving revenue and helping the company advance and be innovative. So it was really cool to also see that in my assignment. And then it's cool to every day I talk to my clients about, how to improve their network, how to improve their security posture, how to improve their communications. So I go from writing a proposal to a customer to writing a proposal in a paper. So it's been a really fun experience that way.
One thing I think that is special for both of us, and I'm going to put a line in the sand, people, cybersecurity, like virtualization, cloud storage, networking, business analytics, like I don't care. My favorite technology I've ever had the chance to work with is AppDynamics. And I think a big reason why is because let's take Bicycle Company, for example. A great way to expand international sales is through e-commerce and having all your configurations set in a way that, you can sell in international currency and tax appropriately, and you got all the shipping on the back end. Well, AppDynamics can literally change the revenue impact of that initiative just by uptime and optimization on the back end and through analytics. And so I think AppDynamics is the most interesting blend of technology and business. And so I don't know how you feel. Maybe you want to throw out your favorite technology you've ever had a chance to work with. Hey, my Splunk friends, I love you. My Pure Storage friends, love you. VMware, anybody I've worked with on the cybersecurity side, but AppDynamics is my favorite. What's yours?
I would agree. And mainly, like you said, the gap between IT and business. And they've done some really cool things. And since Cisco bought AppDynamics, it's funny, I think you would appreciate this. The technology supported by AppDynamics to go in and automatically find all the endpoints and connections in an application and IT environment. They're doing that. They're using that same technology to discover IT networks and giving that visibility. So I was I saw this, I think it's called Find It. And as soon as I saw it, I was oh, this is from them getting AppDynamics. So that was really cool to see when I was getting trained by Cisco. Anywho.
Well, and that's actually a really relevant topic we should maybe talk about, because depending on the OEM, for example, Cisco is historically a hardware company, and Cisco has no choice but to diversify into software-defined software, whatever, because hardware is just it's always going to be there. I don't think it's a growing area. I mean, I don't know the industry data, go check Forrester, guys, but I get the sense that they just don't have a choice but to move into software. And so it's cool to see them taking the AppDynamics thing and doing well with it.
Yeah. Well, I think there's going to be, hardware is always going to be a thing, right? But I think hardware just around the board is going to take a bit of a hit. Like I said, COVID has opened up a new world where it's people don't need to be in an office. Do we need this physical space anymore? Can we put things in the cloud? So it's going to pose some challenges, but what I've seen from Cisco is that, yes, they're going into software, but they're also getting into services. So we just had
interesting.
Yeah. So but they've always done communication. That's the Cisco story. It starts out as a love story about two people in two different buildings trying to stay connected and communicate with one another when they were in college to today. And which is such a cute story. But for today, so they're expanding on their voice solutions, collaboration with WebEx, and really building around that. Also security. So we know that Cisco sells a bunch of security tools, firewalls and AMP and all these things, but now they're doing a managed detection response, right, for smaller companies who don't have a SOC, who want to be monitored 24/7. So companies are moving, to, we need to be services oriented. Yes, we need to deal with software and be software defined and help people get to the cloud. So it's been cool, I think, even in the last 5 years, to see that switch. And now, at CBTS, we're a huge Cisco partner, and just being able to being close with them. I joined my company as a part of a Cisco program called Excel. So I have like a Cisco mentor and things like that. So just seeing what's coming up the pipe for them has been really awesome. But I think it's a change you're going to see. And I also think that a lot of the people who have been so used to selling the hardware for all these years are going to have trouble. So you're going to have, because you're used to slinging boxes and things. And now we need to talk to people about, service and monthly recurring revenue and things like that. So I'm hoping that people can change or diversify their sales ability, and changing those motions.
Mm-hmm. This will be a fun topic to chat about for a minute or two. So what's your territory? Because I know you're not selling enterprise. For a bit, you were doing like small to medium-sized businesses, right?
Yep. So
Are you still doing that?
Yep. So at CBTS, I'm on a team that we're small to mid-size. I'm specific Indiana. And I focus on what is considered our communications practice. And within our communications practice, we offer as a service solutions. And so we have network as a service built on Cisco Meraki, which if you don't know much about Meraki, it's cloud managed to where you can manage your network from any location, anywhere, even from your phone, and have full visibility into your network, cameras, things like that. So it's really awesome solution that we help co-manage through our data centers and provide 24/7 support. So that's NAS. We also, and I know you know SD-WAN.
Yeah.
So we provide SD-WAN through VMware, VeloCloud, Meraki, and Viptela with Cisco. And I think we have some other, those are our main ones. We do provide other SD-WAN opportunities, but we also provide that as a service. So as customers are looking to, hey, I have some applications that are hosted in our data center, but mostly everybody's going to the cloud for everything. They're going to the cloud for email, Salesforce, whatever other tools you're using in the cloud. So it helps prioritize that quality of service, right? So it doesn't matter where you are. It doesn't matter what you're trying to get to. It'll if you have two connections, it'll fail over automatically to give you the best connection, right? So that's really helping businesses make sure that even if there 10,000 people are in a location trying to connect to a business app, that everybody has good quality going to it, right? Over just regular internet, instead of using these like old school expensive MPLS lines that are costing thousands a month. You can run it over your just AT&T internet, right?
Yeah. That's like, it's like modernization. You think of IT modernization, but using existing modern infrastructure. It's almost like just by design moving off that legacy stuff, which at some point companies have to make that switch. And I think what's interesting about small to mid-sized businesses, if I think of the state of Indiana, may not have giant IT teams. You got a couple IT folks managing like everything. They're doing the cybersecurity. They're the webmaster. Like they're doing the company internal phone system. They're doing any sort of thing that's hosted in however many clouds they're using at this point, plus like on-prem networking and any servers and storage they have. Like that's a lot for these, small IT teams to manage.
Exactly. So that's where we come in. So a lot of CBTS, our sellers are focused on enterprise, and that's what we focus on small to mid-size, because, we provide, our hosted communication for voice as a service, right? We provide the networking as a service. So you don't have to be a jack of all trades. Let us come in, provide it on a monthly recurring basis, instead of companies having to shell out so much money, hundreds of thousands of dollars in new networking infrastructure. The technology gets smarter and better in value the more with time. So that's really where I focus at. And again, I have customers today that are like, hey, I am the IT manager, I'm the only guy. and I am good at this, but I am not good at that. And so, we come in and we really go through our communication practice and our other areas and say, how can we work with you? And I don't sell a lot of hardware, sell a lot of services, and the hardware will come with it because it's a part of the solution. But again, it's like, what is making your life easier? And the biggest thing is like visibility. What I love about, I sell a lot of voice because a lot of Cincinnati Bell's a telephone company. So we have a lot of legacy voice customers. We're helping getting up to date. And the biggest challenge for a lot of companies has been, how can we enable remote from home, where all of our employees don't have to use their personal cell phones all day. They can use their own numbers and not have to worry about a bunch of forwarding. So our voice has been very helpful in that. But our networking as a service, as I mentioned, having an app to look at your entire network infrastructure at all your locations. So we have, enterprise customers who have our NAS, who have hundreds of locations, and they're able to see that single pane of glass visibility across all their network infrastructure and rely on us to support that for them when they're asleep at night. So it's really cool. And it's a bit of a different world coming from like the analytics, automation, private cloud world to networking and communication. Whole new world. I knew how before I used to help people troubleshoot those systems, but now I'm like learning about, networking infrastructure and all these things. So it's been fun. Again, the learning and learning a bunch of new things.
You said a term that you and I were texting the other day. You said PBX, get the customer off their old PBX. And I was like, should I know what that is? And I Googled it and I was like, oh, okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
Something exchange. What's it stand for?
Goodness.
Here, let's Google. Let's Google it.
Let's Google. And so, phone, PBX. I know I'm like so bad because I definitely should.
Oh, private branch exchange.
Yes, there we go.
And I was like, oh, that sounds like a very like legacy thing.
Well, yeah. So and that was like me learning. Again, I got to the company and they told us about all the solutions, and I'm like, okay, cool. Well, how are people doing stuff right now? And a lot of it is like old school. Think about like you growing up and having a landline in your house, right?
Yeah.
That's to make it simple. It's like having a copper line that runs to the business. Copper now is expensive to maintain. Everything's going to fiber. Nobody would go and get a brand new copper line to handle their internet. It just isn't unless you really, really, really have a need to have this very private, dedicated connection for some reason, which there are reasons. But for most things, it's like it can run over the internet, and you just need to address quality and security. But there are people who like to manage, so before the voice was handled, like the voice was given. So we sold voice, and then the customer bought their own telephone system, and the telephone system had the phones and the software that help with, auto attendance and call forwarding and hunt groups, and the customer managed that. Now we sell it all. So we sell the phones, we sell the voice services, and then we co-manage it with the customer, so they can have all that without having to manage it separately, right? But there's some people just like not wanting to go to the cloud or do anything. Like, nope, this is mine. I like to manage it. I don't want to do anything else. I like my old traditional. And you kind of let those people do their thing. But for most people, they're like, this is expensive. Why would I keep doing this? It's not helping us move forward. I can't work from home off of the telephone line that goes only to the business, right? But my internet, I can access my, voice services from anywhere. And most people just make that connection because that's the way that we are.
Yeah. It's like so common sense in our personal lives. But then as a business application, you're dealing with old stuff. Like in our personal lives, it's like, even if you have a landline, like nobody calls it. You just have your cell phone and it's replaced it. Whereas businesses that have been around for 30 years, like there's just so much of that lingering. And I'm sure it's a challenge for cultural reasons, skills, just.
Well, and I even add, like, you know, I have not once used Wi-Fi calling on my phone. But I feel like people are apprehensive of using it because they're like, well, I can have data anywhere. But until your phone starts saying 5G and then you go to an area where it says 4 and your phone doesn't know how to act, like it just forgets that it used to work on 4G, then you turn on your Wi-Fi and then you start using the phone, right? So it's just like, I feel like it takes people experiencing another way. And then I think it goes back to the business deciding IT is not just a call center. It is a way that we can drive innovation, drive revenue. And they start making decisions. And it's like, hey, which I know that's a fight. The business wants to do this, but the IT team is frustrated. And then, you know, we CBTS are kind of at a point, well, how can we help you get to A to B? You know, try to smooth it over internally. It's always great when business and IT come together, but that's just like saying, hey, developers and operations are best friends, you know, like.
Yeah. It's like they're working on it. It's called DevOps.
Right. DevOps. And so, but yeah, it's just been so interesting because we're, you know, at CBTS, I'm in this space where I'm really trying to help these the smaller customers, small to mid-sized businesses. And I think that they're more prime to understand the need. They're not so stuck in working with one traditional VAR or one traditional OEM or this one traditional way. They know they're like, hey, I don't have a staff. I need to get this stuff done. And quite frankly, a lot of times they don't want any part of dealing with it. So I feel like small to mid-size, they can sometimes be more of the first adopters.
Yeah. Yeah. A rip and replace, so to speak, is a bit easier for them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's less of a giant undertaking sometimes.
Yeah. And because with, you know, more enterprise, then you have the risk of like, well, am I taking some, you know, people are like, is my job going to be gone because I'm the only person at the company who all these years have had expertise in
this like niche thing.
Yeah. So I just feel like they have less of that, and more of how is this going to help my business do what it needs to do. At least that's what I'm finding.
Yeah. And maybe like sort of wrap up today, maybe a last question that I'm thinking about is you're a salesperson who carries a quota and you've got some level of marketing support, I'd imagine, from CBTS. And we're in a world where COVID has impacted a lot of businesses. So COVID basically like melted the economy starting March 14th or 15th, I think was the day. And now we're at the end of August. It's almost September. And small businesses in particular, there was the CARES Act, and like a lot of small businesses got PPP money and that type of thing that maybe enterprises didn't get. Like, what's it like for you doing sales and marketing right now to your end customers? Like, is stuff still getting pushed? Like, are people reluctant to spend? Like, do you think the CARES Act has actually like impacted their ability to transact on things you do, which actually helps their employees work from home? Like what are you seeing there?
I can't say that me personally, I've really dealt with people having a boost from the CARES Act. I think the education space probably saw more of that because, you know, speaking with my colleagues, like the need to send millions of kids home and, you know, how do we make sure that they have a laptop and proper internet connection? So I think a lot of companies were scrambling. And so I think a lot of IT companies are probably doing IT companies that are focused on enabling remote, enabling cloud are doing well right now, or seeing a boost, at least saw a boost, because companies are like, I don't know, we need to send people home, and I don't have stuff and I don't have a way to do it. So taking the opportunity to kind of jump in and help people, because this is what we were doing before the pandemic. So helping people navigate through that. And now it's like, okay, we helped you get to a okay point, but it's kind of like a Band-Aid. So let's talk about your future state. Companies are, again, do we really need this office space? Do we need this many floors? And how is that going to impact IT? What me personally, a lot of the transactions and deals and opportunities I've had, some of them got pushed, especially if they were like really small, like a company of like 11 people or so. But a lot of things kept moving, which I was really surprised about, because I think that just goes to show how important IT is to a business.
Mm-hmm.
It's a part of the company's success. So a lot of things kept going, and I was like, our communications practice, I've sold a lot of voice. So a lot of our customers are like, hey, I need to make sure my people can, communicate from home. And it was like, okay, hey, let's get you switched over, off of this legacy thing. And I've been able to help migrate to new stuff for the better service, and for a lot of times less cost.
Yeah.
Technology has,
there's
a
cost benefit.
Right. There's a cost benefit. It's helped. So a lot of things are moving. I think now that people are starting to get their bearings, I'm seeing some customers having to wait because they're trying to figure out what's next. And then I've seen customers that, are like, well, we're moving full steam ahead. But fortunately, and I think from speaking to a lot of my colleagues, everybody's doing okay. Marketing wise, now didn't really do much with marketing during this time. And I think even doing outbound has been difficult during this time because, you just think about, again, people, people are at home with their kids. I went to the dentist the other day, and the receptionist had her daughter next to her while her daughter was taking class, right? And she's like her in the middle. So these are people's everyday lives. So prospecting is a little bit more difficult. I had a lot of success with existing customers, but we are ramping up. I'm looking to actually plan. A colleague of mine in Columbus is doing a webinar like as we speak. I'm planning to do a similar one in Indy market, and it's unique. We partner with Checkpoint, and they're partnered with a brewery, and they sent like a 6-pack of beer that brewery beers to all the attendees. And after the webinar is over, they're going to walk them through a taste testing of the beers.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So our marketing teams are trying to find unique ways to, we're all on WebEx, Zoom all day. So how can we make sitting on another hour long WebEx, even if it's a technical presentation, interesting? So I'm trying to work out something for my indie people, customers here, and get them hopefully partner with like a local winery or brewery here to do something similar. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Well, the good news is Indy has a few of those. Certainly the beer scene isn't horrible. So I think you got a couple options.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Winery, because selfishly, I don't drink beer, and that, I don't think I've told you that before. It hasn't changed. I've tried, but I like wine. So we might be doing a little bit of a different thing, but who doesn't like wine?
I love it. I love it. Yeah. The marketers have to get creative right now. Like, a big part of what I've done in my background is like events. And even this spring I was doing events. Plus I was like traveling to clients. Like I was traveling almost every week until like March, basically. And I think a lot of people just, if you're a field rep, a field seller, you had to learn how to sell from the inside. Like I don't care if it's marketing or field sales, we've had to adapt. So it's just cool to get your take on that.
And that's good. But coming from inside sales, like this is pretty normal to me. I'm like, I hey, I can sell deals without having to meet people face to face. So, because this is what I did for 4 years. So,
Yeah.
so it's like, hey, let's meet, let's, have some conversations via WebEx, via Zoom, and then close business. So for me, that's been it's been okay. Easy adjustment for me. And I think anybody coming from the inside side of things probably is adjusting well.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, even me, like I've just been making cold calls with teams I help. Like I'm just not even doing marketing. It's just like calling cell phones right now. Like people are picking up cell phones. And if you have a purpose for the call, like I've noticed people aren't hanging up on you. Like they're not mad. Like people are taking calls too. It's fun. It's fun to be forced to adapt and see people. Not everybody's thriving, but the people that are, it's just like really cool to hear. So I'm sure you're doing great, Jasmine. This is awesome.
I'm doing an all right job. You ask my team.
Yeah,
They
good.
say a lot of good things, but you know me, I just kind of smile and laugh and try to stay humble.
Start trying to stay humble. Well, cool. Well, hey, so if people want to find you either for like Indy Black Millennials and like the event you're doing Friday, as well as like maybe on LinkedIn, where can people track you down if they want to connect with
Yeah,
Jasmine?
so yep, LinkedIn is just Jasmine Morris. Jasmine like the flower, so nothing fancy. Jasmine. Last name Morris. So you can find me there. And then I think I'm pretty easy to find. You'll see a woman with blonde locks, and you'll know that's me. And then I'm on Twitter. I need to get a little bit more active on there, but I just followed you, I think, last week or
You
so.
did. Everybody, so thank you so much for listening today, Jasmine. I appreciate you hopping on and talking about a not so easy topic. Like you said, talking about the Black Lives Matter movement is really important. Thanks for sharing what CBTS is doing as well to help allies and help folks like me better understand what it's like for you in corporate America. And thanks for talking about your experience in the channel. This was a ton of fun today. Any
Yeah.
parting words from you?
No, just thank you for having me. And like you mentioned, just having diversity of discussion, issues, thoughts. I know we've been trying to do this thing for like a year. So I'm finally happy we could get our schedules to match. And I love any opportunity that I have to do things like this. So if you ever want me again, just let me know. And then hopefully it won't take another year.
Yes. Well, thanks. And like, it's fun. Like I love doing these. So,
Yeah.
all right, cool. And everybody else, until next time, thanks for listening. Outcome Studio out. Deuces.